Hi and welcome back to the AQA GCSE History Conflict and Tension between East and West of 1945 to 1972 revision series. This is episode 3. I'm looking at the Iron Curtain, Marshallade and the Berlin Blockade. By 1946, the Soviet Union had successfully spread communism through Eastern Europe. Poland, Albania, Hungary, Romania and Bulgaria all had communist governments and were loyal to Stalin. Churchill called the divide between the East and the West of Europe the Iron Curtain. Stalin also used a secret police force to control the countries in Eastern Europe. In 1947, Cominform was set up to coordinate the work between all the different communist parties. The Western powers now accepted that the Eastern Europe was a Soviet sphere of influence. However, they hoped that democratic governments would still be considered in the East. Truman decided to respond with a policy known as the Truman Doctrine. It was a policy designed for containment, which is stopping any further spread of communism. During this time, there was a civil war in Greece between the monarchists and the communists. Stalin and the Soviet Union also tried to take control of neighbouring country Turkey. The United States was concerned about this due to the fact that it would allow the Soviets to spread communism through the Middle East. America was also concerned due to the fact that Turkey was very important for its reserves of oil. Truman persuaded the US Congress to grant him $400 million of aid to help the situation in Greece and Turkey. This made Turkey a very strong ally of the United States and helped the monarchists of Greece. However, it further harmed the relationship between the United States and the USSR. Truman sent General Marshall to assess the situation in Europe after World War II. He found that the country's economies had been ruined and there was an extreme shortage of all supplies. General Marshall proposed a plan known as the Marshall Plan, $17 billion of aid to help rebuild Europe. Marshall believed tackling the issue of poverty would make it much more difficult for communism to spread. In 1947, Truman attempted to get Congress to approve his aid. However, he failed. But in 1948, after the USSR had invaded Czechoslovakia, this act shocked Congress and they granted the Marshall Aid. Stalin was suspicious of the Marshall Aid. As a result, he banned communist states from applying to it. Consequently, Stalin set up his own version called Comecon. Quite a high-level point to say here is that the Marshall Aid was America's attempt at buying the loyalty of the European countries. In 1948, Britain, France and the United States combined their designated zones of Berlin into one, in an attempt to allow the German economy to recover more quickly. Stalin responded with the Berlin Blockade out of fear that Germany was being built up deliberately. Berlin was deep inside the Soviet zone of Germany, but Berlin itself was divided between each of the Western superpowers. In June of 1947, Stalin closed links between Berlin and the West, which consequently left Berlin without supplies. If they were to use tanks and military machines to remove the roadblocks, it would have been seen as an act of war, so the Allies decided to use a plane to fly over the supplies into Berlin. This was known as the Berlin Airlift. However, it was feared that the Soviets may shoot down the planes, which would have ignited a war, although this never actually happened. Despite the shortages, the airlift always managed to support West Berlin, until 11 months later where Stalin reopened the links. After the blockade ended, Germany was formally divided into two countries, the West, the Federal Republic of Germany, and the East, the German Democratic Republic, under Soviet control. So that's the end of episode 3 of the AQA GCSE History Conflict and Tension between East and West of 1945 to 1972 revision series. Next episode we'll be looking at the wars in Asia. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed.